Welcome, beautiful friends, to the Way of Mastery. We are wrapping up lesson number 8 tonight. This is the final deepening of dropping pebbles into the pool of awareness. Has this lesson brought a heightened sense of awareness of what pebbles you are throwing in your pond? That can be alternately distressing, but yet pretty empowering, can't it? I can assure you that whenever the ego is feeling distress, there is great empowerment for the Christ right behind that distress. Because in the ego's distress, oh my gosh, look what I've been doing, the Christ says, oh, but look what I can do. So whenever the ego's depressed, that's because the Christ is rising. The light's getting close. It's getting really bright in here, really hot in here. So, dropping pebbles into the pool of your awareness, he makes it very clear that the first time he dropped, I and the Father are one, he mentioned that in Sunday's channeling. First time he thought he was nuts when that thought dropped in his consciousness. I and the Father are one. Because if you think you're a body and that's all you've ever been, that's like the height of arrogance. I just think it's funny. He tells us that our denial of our divinity and saying we're these limited body minds, that's the height of arrogance. Not claiming our divinity. But nonetheless, when you recognize that he's made it clear here that all we are is conscious awareness. And that in that field of conscious awareness, which we can never lose, which is provided by the presence of God as our being, not in it, but not like given to us and then we leave. It's because we are one with the source. We are free and have been eternally to create all manner of experience within the field of our awareness, with absolutely no limitation, infinitely so. This was our idea of what if we took our infinite self and limited ourselves to this tiny, frail little form, and instead of being infinitely aware of creation, we filter it through 5 very tiny, localized senses. Wow, this is about as small as we could make our infinite self. Really cool experience to have when you recognize that's what it is, that your truth hasn't been lost. So anyway, dropping pebbles into the pool of your awareness. Ready, Cindy?
I am created as my Father created me to be. I am free. And nothing sources my experience but me in each moment. Nothing has an effect on me whatsoever, save that which I choose to allow to affect me. I need do nothing. I do not live any ordinary moments. With each breath, my experiences are the stepping stones laid before me of God to guide me home. Therefore, I will bring awareness to each moment and allow it to teach me how to forgive, how to embrace, how to love, and therefore, how to live fully. The only relationship which holds any value at all is your relationship with God, your creative source. And the keys to the kingdom: desire, intention, allowance, and surrender. And the definition of love: love allows all things, accepts all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and is therefore transcendent of all things.
Thank you, Cindy. He has a very simple exercise that he gives us about abiding as Christ for 5 minutes, which is about practicing number 1. I and I alone are exorcising my experience. I can look upon the couch and I can determine it ugly, I can determine it beautiful, I can determine it any number of things. And your experience of that couch is driven exclusively by the meaning and the value that you place upon it. And that's true of everything and everyone. So when we begin to live in that, nothing has an effect on me whatsoever. I mean, he's emphatic in this pathway. It's not like, a cancer diagnosis can have an effect on you, but your angry neighbor, no. He's saying nothing, no thing, no situation, no circumstance, no anything has an effect on you whatsoever, save that which I choose to affect me. So look in your life at things that you have habitually chosen to allow to affect you. Maybe a relationship with your parents, maybe a relationship with GMOs, maybe a relationship with terrorists, maybe a relationship with sex, with money, whatever it is. What if you simply decided, I wonder, if you drop the pebble in your pond, I wonder if it's possible for me to be with my parents or whatever and not let it affect me. If you start to do that with 1, 2, 3 things and you begin to recognize, oh my gosh, I really can allow the things that used to affect me to no longer affect me. A whole lot of energy will rise in your being as you begin to step into the truth that, oh my gosh, I'm not a victim of what's outside of me. I have every bit of control and responsibility for my experience. I'm not saying you have control over outside events. You have control over the inner event as it relates to any seeming outer event. That's cool. I mean, that's really, really cool. But when you begin to take responsibility, for instance, Cindy and I, when we were, before my awakening, we had this relationship where we had agreed to let each other affect our state of being. Anybody know a relationship like that? Has anybody else played codependent, ego-based relationships? Of course. So when I awoke and I no longer allowed what Cindy was doing to affect my state of being, she was pissed. Because, wait a minute, we had some kind of arrangement. We knew each other through the dance of codependency. Of, wait a minute, you hurt my feelings, so now you've got to go play the sorrow game and you got to come and you got to make up and all that stuff. So when you begin to withdraw, because what happens is you've given another being your power. When you begin to take it back, they may not like that. They may not like that they don't have the ability to control you anymore. Just know that that might happen. But why would you give another being control over your state of being? Number 2, I need do nothing. I don't know, there's just not much to that one. There's not much to the words, but of the 4 of these, the one that requires the most allowance and the most surrender to embody is number 2. It's deeper and richer and more holographic than probably the other ones, because it's the hardest one to actually do, because it requires you to not do. And all of our egoic consciousness is do. That's why it's shit. Boom, boom, boom. Number 3, therefore I will bring awareness to each moment and allow it to teach me how to forgive. That's not the line I wanted. I wanted, with each breath, my experiences are stepping stones laid before me of God to guide me home. Every breath and every stone and every experience is not being done to you, it is being done for you. Cindy and I had this discussion at lunch about we have to remove this idea that only good things are supposed to happen to other people. It is a real burden to carry the expectation that I want only good things to happen for other people. Sounds really nice. Sounds like it's a very magnanimous thing to do. If only nice things had happened to me in this life, I never would have awoken. You have no idea what it will take to bring another being back home. And if they're fat and happy, chances are they're not going to go, oh my gosh, there must be a different way to be. So he talks about this in the Course in Miracles, that all things are happening together for good. So could you embody all things are happening together for good? If the body's sick, if you go bankrupt, whatever it might be, can you say, wow, all things are happening together for good. I'm going to recognize that this experience is the stepping stone laid before me of God to guide me home. How can I step on this stone and bring the presence of God to this moment so that I receive the gift that is in whatever's happening? So I'm by no means saying wish bad things for people. I'm just saying they're going to draw to them the experiences that they need to awaken. And a couple of you in the room have had experiences that you just were the most horrific, you thought the worst things in your life. You've now woken up to the fact, oh my gosh, what an incredible gift that experience was. What if you lived, rather than in fear of your next experiences, what if you lived with arms wide open, ready to accept the next gift? Knowing it's a stepping stone laid before you of God to guide you home, even if it's what the body-mind says it doesn't want. That's just a whole different way to approach life, about being present. Number 4, the only relationship that holds any value is your relationship with God, the creative source. Nobody else's relationship with God is relevant to you in any way whatsoever, including mine. Your relationship with the Creator is the only thing that matters to you, and you must cultivate it. It's up to you. But stop chasing other people's experience. I mean, I've seen it happen in many spiritual circles. Someone will say something about an experience or something, and I can just feel the minds around the room going, oh shit, I don't have that experience. Damn, what about me? Well, why them? Blah, 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 blah. Instead of seeking your own relationship within and not chasing anywhere outside of you. Keys to the kingdom. Desire. You can rest assured that if you're in this room, if you've gotten the Course in Miracles or the Way of Mastery, the desire to awaken has already been fully established and fully acknowledged. You don't get these things. I mean, the soul doesn't window shop. The ego might, but you don't get these things show up in your life until you're done with time and space and you're ready to awaken. And then love. Love allows all things, accepts all things, trust, embraces. I talked about this last week, that the ego oftentimes looks at that and goes, gosh, I'm just going to be a doormat. I'm going to have to love the things that I don't want to love. And I wonder if anybody would contemplate the upside of this. Like, love allows all things. Love allows that the laws of physics be absolutely set aside to make way for the miraculous. Wow. Think on that for a while. Love accepts all things. Love trusts all things. I mean, really open to what the infinite potential of those are, not what the body-mind's going to go, oh, I'm not going to like this, I'm not going to like this, I'm not going to like this. Really let your being open to infinite possibilities. There's extremely more upside in this definition of love than we think. Because we think with the thinking mind that tends to think this is like, oh, I have to love everything I don't want to love. But what are the things you're not currently aware of that are available and are potential experiences for you to have and live within because love allows them? That's a fun little contemplation. The ego wants to stick with what it already knows and what it's already judged. It doesn't like to move towards the unknown and say, what is it I don't know that I don't know? And how fun might it be to have that revealed to me? Ready for the Lord's Prayer, Cindy?
WOM, the Washmaya, Nita Kadash Shama, Tete Malkuda, Neve Sivinach, Akina, the Washmaya, O Baraha, Haulan, Lachman, Zunkanan, Yamana, Washwoklan, Halpin, Akina, Dapanan, Shwakin, El Hayabin. Ula talan el mission, el pasan membisha. Met de lachim el kuta, uhaila, utish bhakta. La alam, amin, amen.
Abunde bosh Maria, Nita Kedash Shama Tete Makuta Nwere Savianek Kanada Boshmaya of Barahar How long Lachmad Sunkan in Yamana Washwoklan Habain I Kanada Dafbanan Shwaken El Hayabain Ula Talan El Nestiona El La Person Min Bisha Metal de la Kimakuta Uhaila Utishbokta La Alam Amin Amen.
If you'll notice, when either of those start, there's a deep sense of peace that makes itself known. I mean, I can feel it in the room. If you really focus, or actually relax into it, when you listen to that on your own, that sense of peace is always there. This prayer is just like a key of reminder. You're welcome to live in that peace all the time. Ready, Cindy?
Mastery is a state in which you have embraced yourself as a ceaseless creator and assumed complete responsibility for everything which comes into the field of your awareness without judging it, so that you can simply decide whether it's going to stay or be dissolved in its effects. Mastery is fearlessness, no longer fearing the infinite creative power of your perfect union with God. I and my Father are one is one expression of mastery. And if I, who uttered those words once so long ago in your experience of time, can demonstrate to anyone who will look that consciousness transcends the limited beliefs about the body and life and death that the world seems so determined to defend at all cost, if I can demonstrate that only love is real, I can demonstrate the power to communicate with minds across creation. If I can bring forth creations by joining with other minds who may temporarily think they are just a body, such that written words fall upon a page, and the page becomes part of a book, that becomes part of something sitting on your shelf, such that your heart is touched at just the right time. If I can do these things, so too can you. And indeed, greater things than these shall you do.
That's great stuff. But this definition of mastery, he'll come back to a couple of times in the pathway. Mastery is a state in which you have embraced yourself as a ceaseless creator and assumed complete responsibility for everything which comes into the field of your awareness. He talked about it later in this pathway that Christ assumes responsibility for the whole of creation. And that responsibility is not like, oh shit, I did this and I'm in trouble. It's what this next paragraph is about. It's the ability to respond to all of creation without judgment. That is the responsibility of Christ. Not that you are the chooser of everything that happens and therefore you individually are accountable. That's not it. That's the responsibility we think of as ego. It's very important that you wash that definition out of your consciousness and recognize that the responsibility of Christ is the ability to respond versus reacting. Reacting is acting in a way that you have in the past with judgment. So the ability to respond differently without judgment to what you previously have judged is forgiveness. It is the blessing and the presence of Christ, so that you can simply decide whether it's going to stay or its effects can be dissolved. Because you can't truly decide until you release your judgment from it. Because if you've judged it, you've said, this has value to me to hold it in a judgment. So you can't actually let it go until you remove the judgment and you return it back to its neutral state. The next lesson in this pathway is about all events being neutral. So welcome being responsible for all of creation. It is how you develop mastery. Not, I don't want to be responsible because I don't want the guilt that goes with it. It's a very, very different expression of responsibility. So you can, if you want, you can watch the news at night and practice. Can I look upon whatever seems to be happening with non-judgment? Am I willing to remove what my mind has told me and the world has told me is the truth and the way things should be? Can I look upon this and go, I see that these events are happening. Is that a thing I want to continue to come into the field of my awareness? Yes or no? And the more that humanity does this, the more the kind of things that we don't want to come into the field of our awareness will stop. But right now we've kind of got it backwards because the news keeps putting all that stuff that we really seem to not want into the field of our awareness. So our attention is on the things we don't want rather than kind of on the things we do. Mastery is fearlessness. Because fear can only arise as a reaction. Where you have judged in the past, this is worthy of fear, the unknown is worthy of fear, so I'm going to react in the same ways, rather than stepping into the responsibility of Christ and saying, oh, I see, I've reacted in the past, but I'm going to choose again and exercise my ability to respond differently, and I'm going to look on this as a neutral event without judging it. It's a beautiful practice. And by the way, you have infinite number of ability to practice all day long. Situation after situation after situation. No longer fearing the infinite. Creative power of your perfect union with God. I mean, I just think it's so ironic that we made ourselves small and then we created this idea of fear to keep us from just joyfully running back to the infinite which we are. Because for a moment, if you're an infinite creator, nothing is outside of you. There is no power over you. There is no power greater. Where's fear in that context? I mean, you recognize fear makes no sense whatsoever to an infinite creator. It's fearlessness. So the ego fears the unknown because when you move into the unknown and you remember this, what power is the ego going to have over you? Zilch. You'll laugh at it. I and the Father are one. Because do you think God experiences fear? If not, I suggest you to wake up to your God consciousness and see that fear is laughable. Judgment makes absolutely no sense. I've used a symbol before that God's kind of like the sun out there that's radiating electromagnetic light onto all the planets. You recognize that star just gives. It doesn't have an on-off switch. It doesn't have a judgment switch. It doesn't say, Venus, you just don't appreciate me enough anymore, so I'm not going to shine on you, but I'm going to shine on the other planets. The truth of what you are has no context of fundamental or inherent judgment within it. So, how many of you here actually hear Jeshua in your, or at least feel His presence in your own being? You bet. So if He can do that, Recognize that every being can also feel your presence. When he asked me, are you ready to begin your cosmic work? You think what you're doing in your living room is the extent of what you're doing. Are you ready to really step into your infiniteness and work with me across all of creation? I was like, wow, cool. Let's do that. Why not? And all of a sudden people started showing up and said, wow, you came to me in a dream. Or I heard you in my mind. Because that's what's true about us. And it's not true after we die. It's true right now, except that we've pulled that wool over our eyes. These things and more and greater things you shall do. Wow, isn't that cool? You, Joy. Wow. So, what he has done, as he did when he was embodied and continues to do without a body, is continue to push the envelope to reveal to all of creation what are the fundamental potentials within creation itself. What are the unlimited potentials of creation itself? And from the very outset, he has said, what I have done, you can do. I and the Father are one, you and the Father are one. I'm the light of the world, you are the light of the world. At some point, and I finally just decided, well, what would happen if I just took his word for it? Rather than arguing it and trying to defend my belief that we were different, what if I just accepted his profession that we were absolute equals? And I let that begin to show up in my awareness. I can't even begin to tell you the mind-shattering things that will begin to happen when you truly are willing to accept that that's true. Why not? If you think it's all bunk, you're welcome to go back to your, oh, I'm tiny and I have this private little mind, and why not?
I'd add one more comment to that. The end of that sentence is, he says, these things shall you do. It isn't that you can do or that you could do if you chose to do. It's predictive. He says you shall do it. It is already determined.
Boom! Thanks for the addition, honey. Cool. Wow, you keep showing up in my dreams, honey.
Am I wearing anything?
No. Well, but thank you for the addition. I mean, Cindy makes a very good point. He doesn't stay in the potential. He deals in present reality. So if you shall do these things, something within your being says, I don't know how to do them now, so therefore I can't. What if you rested in, I can do these things because it's the nature of what I was created to be as an offspring of the Creator, and it's my belief that I have to learn first that is prohibiting me. I mean, how many of you have done something and it's called beginner's luck? You know, it's like you go to play golf the first time and you're too ignorant to know anything and you're like just playing it great. And then you start thinking about it and the wheels fall off. You know, what if you just rested in, well, if God can do this, if Jeshua can do this, then it must be available for me to do. How do I open to what's already true? Rather than trying to make it true. If you're trying to make it true, you're coming from a subtle place of it's not. And you're trying to get to it through effort rather than getting to it through I need do nothing. That means you drop your denial that you can't do it. Do you see the subtlety there? But thanks for the addition, honey. And feel free to chime in anytime.
Beloved friends, is it not time to assume complete responsibility for the grand freedom that has been imparted to you by Abba, Father, Creator, source of your being? Is it not time to begin spending time disengaging from your entangled views that hold you to believe that what you feel and what you think is the effect of all the energies and things that are coming at you from around you, and begin to use time to decide which pebbles you will drop into the field of your awareness consistently, day by day, hour by hour, and even breath by breath. For these things create your tomorrows, and you cannot ever escape the reality that you are and always will be in the process of creating your tomorrows. Death will never separate you from it. Denial does not change it. And you are free to decide what your tomorrows will be through the act of seeking first the kingdom, which means to rest in that inner silence in which you know that you are a wave having arisen with perfect momentum out of the depth of the ocean of God's holy mind, and that you will carry with you is the result of the thoughts and the beliefs and the perceptions, like pebbles that you have dropped into the wave of your awareness.
Again, is it time to assume complete responsibility for the grand freedom that has been imparted you by Abba, the Creator? The ego looks around at the world and sees hunger and bad things and death and war, and it goes, if you've done these things with your infinite power, you're not worthy of it. You have screwed it up, and it tries to get you to fear the fact that you're a powerful creator in order to try and keep you small. Rather, look upon it and say, behold, look what we as that infinite creator have created, and be willing to say it's very good. And get on with, how would I like to deploy the power of Christ through my being now? Will it be to place my infinite awareness on all these things that seem to be wrong with the world? Or will it be on the things that I desire to bring into creation? Will it be the ego's interpretation of what's happening? Or will it be, Father, what is the truth here? You're free to make those choices at any time. They've been available to us throughout all time. But it takes conscious awareness to be present to do that. So he says the only effective use of time is in awakening, is in unwinding ourselves from our belief that we're small, and that we're separate, and that we're guilty, and that we're unworthy, and that we'll never get it, and that we're not good enough, or that we've been abandoned, whatever they are, and there's some very common themes. The only real purpose of time, not to create great things in the world, not to have lots of money, but to spend the time waking up to your infinite self. The only useful use of time. So if those other things come as a byproduct, but what do you use your time for? I mean, do you use your time to watch TV to get unconscious rather than staying conscious and doing what he's suggesting here? And he's given lots of practices already in these first 8 lessons. And many more will come, especially in the way of transformation. Do you play out habitual patterns to become unconscious because you say it makes you feel better, or you get in a comfort zone? Or do you, really think about it. Am I making myself comfortable and unconscious in my smallness, in my finiteness, in my littleness, in my separateness? Is that really what you want? If so, great. There's a whole plethora of soap operas and supposedly reality TV out there. I've seen a couple of that reality TV stuff, and I'm like, that has got nothing to do with the reality of Christ that I know. But I just love that it gets put on the TV with this big label, reality. Nuts. So and he's talking to do this day by day, hour by hour, and breath by breath. I mean, he's not talking about making it a hobby, making it a side project. He's talking about making this the very purpose of your existence. You bet. Because until you awaken, you don't step into becoming a conscious creator. You are unconscious to it, habituated by things that you say aren't your responsibility. So the highest expression in all of time and space is to awaken. I mean, you could do all kinds of great seeming things in the world and be dead asleep. And you think you're going to get to heaven and get some prize because you did all these good works in the world, and you'll still think you're a tiny little body. And you'll get your golden ticket right back on the bus to get another chance to come wake up. For these things create your tomorrows. Look at the pebbles you have dropped in your life. Does your life not look like the effects of those pebbles? I mean, look, whatever your life is now is the effect of the beliefs that you have carried. It can't be any other way. And the thing is, we keep throwing pebbles now to protect pebbles that we threw decades ago. My father's an asshole. I'm this way because this happened. It's decades later. How often do you throw the same old pebble, reacting in the same way, rather than my father did the best he could with what he had and I'm going to choose to respond differently. And I want to love and embrace and be done with it. So the ego will continue to throw pebbles to protect the past, which includes a fundamental fear of the future, rather than throwing new pebbles. So just for a moment, ask your mind to think a brand new pebble, a thought that it has never, ever thought before. There's the doorway to the inner silence that he was suggesting. You effectively say to your finite thinking mind, think that which you cannot think, and in the stillness that results, you open into the infinite and allow the infinite to reveal through revelation, to drop in what that thought might be. But we can't actually listen until we stop thinking the same habitual thoughts. So many people think the silence is about absolute silence with nothing. If you get to absolute silence, great. You're in the perfect place to listen, to love, to the infinite informing you. Because if you're all about silence, you're also blocking out the infinite to show you what's next. So silence is a place of openness. Many people get to silence and then they make it a box in and of itself to close them in, and they meditate for 30 years and my mind is still as can be. And they're like, isn't there more? Yeah, there's infinitely more. So silence is the doorway. It's not the destination. And we're always creating our tomorrows. Now, you will get to the point where the time between you dropping a pebble and the experience of the effect of that pebble happens very rapidly. The more aware you get, the more waked up you get, the choice to experience becomes really close together without you having to have a plan of how to manifest it, without you having to go do 100 things in order to try and make what your choice is come true. You will wake ever increasingly up to the power of the choice. And the choice, and Jeshua said it already in this pathway, what the Holy Child of God decrees is. And all of us have decreed with lots of pebbles, I'm not powerful. The power of my choice effectively means nothing, because I'm prepared to change it if I even hint that a frown comes up on someone's face that I love. I'm going to do this. Oh, you don't think I should do that? Okay, I won't. So we've cultivated giving the power of our choice away, and we want to restore that. So that if you choose peace, peace is immediately what comes into your awareness. Okay, Cindy, do you have anything to add? Okay, you're free to.
This very process is what created you, and this very process is how you have always created. If you've ever received an education, how did you end up with your body in a classroom? Did somebody kidnap you and sit you down and say, "Here, you must learn these things"? No. You first held a thought, a picture, and you placed a value upon it, and you attracted the means that carried you into the lived experience of receiving the education that you had decided upon. What relationship have you ever entered out of lack of awareness? None. You dropped the pebble into the mind that said, "I want relationship with another being, another body, another place upon the physical planet." You've always been doing it, and you have always experienced the fruit or the effect of the quality of vibration of the pebble that has created the ripples that have become your experiences. In reality, then, your experience, that is your awareness, what is true about you, is no different than what is true about me.
And there we go. Pointing out our equality all over again. So how long do you think Jeshua had to cultivate, I'm not separate from these other beings? If I and the Father are one, and all is one, we must share one mind. So it must be possible to communicate within that one mind. You can call it telepathy, you can call it whatever you want, but just look at how we believe that's not true. Or we might say for psychics or for special people, but not me. So he was struck with the same limitations that we all are. He just became a master of blowing his mind wide open by dropping pebbles in the pond that what God is, I am. If God is infinite, that must mean I am infinite. If God is infinitely aware of all of creation now, that must be my experience. And if it's not consciously, that could only be because I'm holding limited thoughts and beliefs that it's not. God's not withholding it from me. I've created a barrier that says I'm this little tiny body mind. And we're creating barriers or filters to that. That's what he meant when he said in the Bible, the scales will fall from your eyes, all the distortions that you created, all the defenses to the truth, and bam, you'll see the truth. So he's getting at the point here that cause and effect only happen because of choice. I've used this symbol before and I love to use it, the mirror. If you look in the mirror and go, I'll be happy when the mirror smiles. How long are you going to look in the mirror waiting for the mirror to smile first? Look in your life at how many times you're saying something has to change, then I'll be happy. But what if you just chose, bingo, woohoo! What does the mirror do? That's what we're headed back to as cause and effect become one. The effect is now and immediate. So just look at where you're waiting for God to come anoint you or something. Or you're waiting for a guide to come wake you up or come help you along. Recognize you're putting your energy into waiting. I don't ever get guidance. So just look. It's all over the place in our consciousness. Are you going to turn... he says in this first paragraph, this is the process of how you were created. God thought and decreed and you came into existence. And I don't mean you as a body. I mean you as an infinite aspect, as a facet of the infinite diamond, came in. And you had, at that moment, all that the Father had. The ability to create exactly in that same way. So why are we looking in the mirror waiting for something outside of us, some power which doesn't exist outside because there's nothing out there, and expecting it to do something for us? I mean, really, if you've put God as the mirror and you're waiting for the mirror to make creation happen, God's very dutifully simply reflecting back your choices. For a moment, let this pebble drop in your pond that God said to you, not my will, but thy will be done. When you choose, then the universe moves. If you're not choosing, or you're choosing confusion or doubt or bewilderment or whatever, the universe will help you create confusion, doubt, or bewilderment. Cause and effect are one. You are at cause, and then you immediately experience the effect. So, I love the mirror one. It's cool. If anybody wants to practice, if you by chance doubt what I've shared, you're welcome. The mirror will be up here. You can come try and see if the mirror will smile first. You've always been doing it, and you have always experienced the fruit of the effects of the pebbles you've dropped. It's the same thing as the mirror. It can't be any other way. And if you've experienced pain and suffering and loss and all kinds of things you don't like, great. If you're willing to take this level of responsibility, then you got to go, I am really good at this. What if I directed all of my energy from the things that I didn't now no longer want into the things that I do? I mean, turn the tables on the ego and go, look at how well I did separation. If I can do separation that well, if I can distort my perception that deeply, if I can judge without any effort, I just do it incessantly, without even consciously thinking about it, then that must mean that's only the effect of my cultivating mastery in that way. What if I repurpose the mastery for union? What if I repurpose the mastery from I don't know to all of infinite wisdom and knowledge is within me now? And I'm not just saying the words are a beginning. But if you say an empty mantra and you don't believe it, you're not opening really to it, it's just useless. You might as well color with crayons or something.
The only difference that has been that I learned to train myself, hour by hour, to drop only unlimited pebbles that send out vibrations of unconditional acceptance and love and forgiveness and unconditional and unbridled vision and revelation, while you have selected to do that a few times. But then you rush back and pick up the pebbles of unworthiness or limitation or lack or fear or smallness, and you drop 10 or 12 quick ones in, and then you go back to the other cupboard and go, The pebble says, I and my Father are one. Oops, had enough of that, and back you go again. So while I stay on this side of the fence going, I and my Father are one. I and my Father are one. I am unlimited beingness forever. How many universes can I be the savior of today? You have gone. That sounds very good. I and the Father are one. Oh, here's a pebble that says my car needs to break down today.
So a lot of people get on a spiritual path, they start to get some of this, and they want to manifest things for themselves. And they want their guides to help me get a car, help me get this, help me get that. I mean, you recognize you're asking infinite beings, help me just get one little crumb, and that's all I want. They're trying to help wake you up to the whole stinking banquet. Understand that that's the purpose of what guidance is to wake you up to your absolute infiniteness. not to help you solve one tiny little problem. That's not to say that you can't get help with the tiny little problem, but let the tiny little problem be the stepping stone to your infiniteness. And we're going to back up 2 slides where he said, He is in communion with every mind. I am always with you. He is, I am. You're actually already with everyone too. So if you're having trouble coming up with unlimited thoughts, I wonder if you might drop the pebble and say, I wonder if I could ask to listen in on Yeshua's unlimited thoughts. Wow! If there's no privacy, then I must be able to hear those thoughts. Check that out. Because you don't need to create from your finiteness. That's the mistake. We keep starting from a self-reference that says, I'm this. This is trying to open us up to begin with the self-reference of unlimitedness. Do you see the difference? I mean, one, we're not even smart enough to know what to ask. The other, it's all already known. So ask your guides to help you. Well, sure, you can ask for help with forgiveness, but help me forgive my smallness. Help me master, moment by moment, unlimited pebble tossing.
So, John Mark, how would that relate to an everyday thing?
How would that relate to an everyday thing? Well, my beautiful friend, you are thinking all day long.
Correct.
The vast majority of those thoughts are old thoughts and they have very little value.
Okay.
I wonder if while you were driving, instead of thinking the same old incessant pattern of thoughts, you actually spent that time in unlimited thought. I mean, I hear this because people go, well, that's just not very fucking practical.
Well, no, but what's an example of what that would be like? I mean, it's like I get the concept, but there's something in it that I can't see.
Well, this is a lot like sex. The concept sounds really cool, but you just better go do it.
Okay.
So go do this. I mean, there will arise within you such an incredible excitement. I mean, when Cindy opens up and we can play a little bit of unlimited thought, I'm like, whoa, right, here we go. We can go about 10 minutes and Cindy's like, oh, that's enough, stop. But it really is fun and you will feel it energetically. Now know this, that when you start to drop these unlimited pebbles, your pile of small pebbles is going to come up. Because the Spirit's going to say, oh, if you're going to start playing big, we're going to show you these little pebbles because it's now to choose to get rid of them. Because the ego is going to protest. Because you've created the ego, it's going to protest. It's going to want to keep you small. So, but you keep making the choice for unlimitedness. And be authentic. I mean, I and the Father are one. And by the way, I need to be really clear about this. The meaning of I and the Father are one doesn't mean I and God are one. It means the I of God and the I of me are the same thing. It means the existence of God is my very existence. It's one thing. It's not two that seem to be one. It's only one. So, but come up with, challenge your guides to give you something authentic. I want the thought that's never been thought before. I want my mind to be blown completely wide open so that no limitation exists within my consciousness. The guides will get really excited about that because that's the whole purpose. They're not, they'll help with manifesting Mercedes-Benz, but they would rather teach you to manifest a whole stinking universe and know your absolute limitlessness. So forgiveness, we think forgiveness is about situations and circumstances and people in the past. Forgiveness is forgiving yourself for your smallness. Forgiving yourself for the smallness you created for yourself and that you projected on everyone else. And waking up to your infiniteness.
This is all there is. Which side of the fence are you going to sit on and drop the pebbles in? Which tree will you eat the fruit thereof? The tree of knowledge of good and evil? Use that symbology well, for when you drop the pebbles in the pond, it's like saying, well, I think I'll take a bite of this piece of fruit. Oh, but But it's so sweet, it's so good and so perfect. I'd better have a bite of that rotten one too to balance it out. The tree of good and evil, positive and negative, unlimitedness, limitation, forgiveness, judgment, love, fear. It's like holding a beautiful flower and seeing the pebbles and going, oh, it's so beautiful. I can't quite take it, so I think I'll prick my finger on the thorn and bring myself back down. No one ever told you, and your Creator never insisted that you eat of the tree of good and evil. For all good fruit has been given you freely, and you are always free to choose which fruit you will eat thereof.
I hear this a lot on the pathway. Some unlimitedness starts coming and the ego starts protesting for balance. I have to still have my unlimitedness. I have to have balance between my small, tiny body-mind life and my unlimited spiritual life. I mean, just think about that for a moment. That's nuts. How many of you said, it's too good to be true? Come on, you've said it or you've heard it. I got a nod from Jeshua within. Every one of you has said that. It's too good to be true. Wow, I think I'll just hurt myself instead. Rather than, I wonder how unimaginably good it can get. And living in, how great can it get? How expansive is it really? But the body, mind, and the world starts to tell you, no, 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 no. Unlimitedness was maybe just for that one guy 2,000 years ago, but no one else is worthy. And because you're so bad, they killed him. So see how bad you really are and how small you really are? So get rid of the idea of duality. That's the tree of good and evil, of knowledge of good and evil. That's a concept created within our mind to try and create an opposite to infinity, but it's not an opposite to infinity. It's an expression within infinity. There is no duality. There's just infinite variation of the infinite. So don't play the duality game in your mind. Turn your mind towards the abstract. Turn your mind towards the unlimited. Now clearly, limitation is a potential possibility within unlimitedness. Doesn't mean you have to keep choosing it. That's like saying, you know what, I am foundered on Rocky Road ice cream, but I have to keep choosing it to keep a balance between what I now like and what I used to like. That doesn't make any sense. But we do that kind of stuff all the time. All the time. Oh, I had so much fun today, but now I got to get serious. Well, what if your seriousness was about having fun and making your process of awakening fun? I mean, you're waking up to your unlimitedness. Who said that had to be painful? The ego prompted that thought and you believed it. So then you started throwing all these pebbles that, oh my God, I've got to suffer, it's going to be painful. I see someone else has been throwing spiritually difficult pebbles, so I better throw them too. That must be what reality is. Not unless you choose to throw those pebbles. So if you want to throw pebbles, don't look around this world for a pebble tosser. Look within your mind to one infinitely awakened being and ask them to help teach you the truth of what you are. I think it was a couple slides back, but nobody's put a gun to your head and said, toss the pebble of how it can't get any better than this. Toss it right now or else. Nobody has the power to have you think anything you don't want to think or believe anything you don't want to believe. Unless you want to stay in this common definition society smallness. I mean, there's 7 billion on this planet that are playing small. I think it's adequately covered. they're probably not going to miss one of us who chooses to go big, who chooses to accept the truth. And if you do, all of a sudden a bunch of other people will probably start showing up in your life and saying, what's the real deal? How do you really do this? What is the truth of what I am? What does God realization actually mean as a lived experience? Wow.
I and my Father are one. What a blessed creation. I've been having so much fun as this wave. Yes, I see that I have carried along with me. It was fun. I gained a few things. Now what's next? Unlimitedness, Kerplunk. Perfect love, Kerplunk. Wealth, Kerplunk. The ability to heal, Kerplunk, Kerplunk, Kerplunk. Oh yes, I see that little pebble over there sitting on the shore that I've picked up 1,000,000 times. Unworthiness, Kerplunk. But no more. Be done with you. I and my Father are one. I and my Father are one. Father, create through me the good, the holy, and the beautiful. For this is the reason for my beingness. How big of a wave can I become? How powerful can I become? How radiant can I become? How much of you can I express through me? Kerplunk. And remember well that you are creating your tomorrows now, and what you experience never comes to you from outside yourself. If you worry over a lack of golden coins, Kerplunk, and you begin to attract the vibrational ripples that seem to picture back to you, reflect back to you, the truth that you have chosen to believe, I live in lack and I can't get out, Kerplunk. I can't possibly talk to Jeshua. I'm not worthy. Maybe John Mark. Perhaps he's worthy enough, but then he's special, Kerplunk.
Kerplunk, kerplunk, kerplunk. This requires a moment-to-moment, thought-to-thought vigilance in your mind. No thought can show up in your awareness that you have not ordered from infinite possibilities. The mind doesn't want you to be that vigilant. The mind wants those choices to remain unconscious to you, and you feel absolutely helpless and beaten down by those thoughts. It's not true. It is absolutely not true. I know. I walked that path from thoughts of incessant, unconscious judgment, unconscious beliefs, to conscious awareness. So you have to become an expert mind watcher, because you first have to learn to watch the mind to see, oh my gosh, look at these pebbles I'm tossing. I wasn't even aware that I was tossing these pebbles. And then you've got to uncover where the choice for those pebbles is being tossed from and choose again on that level. It doesn't do you so good to choose after you've kerplunked. You can, and of course you can kerplunk, but if you don't uncover the unworthiness that keeps offering up all these kerplunking pebbles, then it's just going to keep doing it. And you'll get I and the Father are one occasionally, but all the unworthiness ones will keep coming. So just for a moment, for those of you who played unworthiness, and for those of you who played abandonment, for those of you who played not good enough, whatever it was, what would your life be like if the incessantness which with you through those pebbles over your lifetime, you had always thrown I and the Father are one. I am absolutely limitless. You know the life would look nothing like what it's looked like. So there's the proof. You're living the life that you desired most and that you created from your choices. And then you made the choices unconscious and thought someone else was throwing the pebbles and it wasn't you. And then you could be a victim. This is God's fault. It's my husband that makes me feel so unworthy. My parents didn't love me enough. All those are your pebbles. I mean, this is the level of responsibility that it takes within your consciousness to become conscious and choose what pebbles you're going to throw in your pond. And then you ask your guides to help you become a master unlimited pebble tosser. I mean, that's really it. You want to ask for help from those who have mastered it. Seems to me to be the easy route. The ego would might, I got to do this on my own. I was talking to someone the other day, and what's next? Unlimitedness, Kerplunk. Perfect love, Kerplunk. Wealth, Kerplunk. And then the next pebble they thought was, Kerplunk, what would that look like? How do I do that, Kerplunk? Trying to be the creator of it rather than simply dropping the pebbles. It's like the mirror again. It's like asking the mirror, how do I smile? That doesn't make any sense. What would that be like to smile? You just do it. You drop the pebbles of the experiences that you want, unlimitedness, and you let the ripples that go out throughout all consciousness bring back those experiences. Stop trying from our little tiny thinking mind to orchestrate and coordinate the events. I mean, when Jeshua was walking around, what would it be like to heal instantly? He wasn't going, I got to find 3 blind men and maybe 3 blind mice and maybe a quadriplegic. He was simply living in, what would that be like? And then the universe coordinated the situations and circumstances that came so that unlimitedness was expressed and realized. Get out of the maker and doer business and get out and get into the pebble chooser business. And trust and let your life be the example that what comes is the effect of my pebbles. Let the past show you that much. Throw the unlimited pebbles and open to the experiences. Remember, your experiences are the stepping stones laid before you of God to guide you home. Stop trying to control what's out there and control what your inner experience is. Get happy within. The outside must change. Smile within. The mirror has no choice. But smile because you choose to smile. I mean, if you're smiling in the mirror and the outside reality seems not to be changing real quickly, keep smiling. Just because it's what you prefer.
Sorry, this one's picking up on Jeshua speaking to me. And the vibrational waves that come to you are that static that restricts your ability to transcend the third dimension and plug into others. So that even if I yell and shout, "Hey, I'm talking to you, listen!" the mind says, that's not possible because I've dropped a rock in, Kerplunk, that says it's not possible, and therefore I don't hear a thing. Do you begin to get the picture? Do you begin to feel in the core of your beingness the essence of this hour's message? You cannot escape being what you are created to be. And in each and every moment, you are literally using that ceaseless and unlimited power to create. You remain perfectly free at any time to create anew. And what you will experience in your tomorrows is only the effect of which pebbles you are choosing to drop into the field of your awareness as thoughts now.
So the only time you can choose is now. So why spend time now wondering about what pebbles you might drop next week or next year when you finally hear guidance? What if you drop the one? My guidance is crystal clear and it's so frigging loud I can't miss it. And you live with that. By the way, one of the prerequisites for hearing guidance is actually learning to listen, which means you need to shut up thinking. I mean, that's why most people don't hear, because they're too busy saying, I don't hear anything. Well, you can't hear when you're speaking or when you're thinking. And we think that we can't stop our thoughts only because we've never really tried. Each of you right now is able to not speak. It's the exact same thing with thoughts. It is no different. You can sit here for an hour and a half and not speak. You can just as readily sit and not think for an hour and a half. Except that you've dropped pebbles that said, oh, I can stop my mouth, but I can't stop my mind. Both are at your choice and are the effects of what you choose to do or think. But Cindy, you said Jeshua was speaking to you?
The slide here is following on the previous slide, in which he's suggesting that we drop the pebble.
Oh.
That I don't hear Jeshua speaking to me, and here's why.
Yeah, but this is one you're working on, isn't it?
It is one I'm working on.
Yeah, cool. So we're already doing it. Our inability to hear is the effect of our choice that I can't hear. So if you're not hearing, then you haven't heard. How powerful are you? You're just as ready and capable and able to hear as well as you've not heard. You can accept as well as you've denied. I mean, this turns the whole table on the ego when you recognize that all the ego's expression of limitation, doubt, and fear are the actual expression of unlimited freedom and unlimited creation. You turn it back upon itself and you simply choose again. It becomes the proof of your absolute creatorness. It becomes the proof that you never were separate. That's mind-shattering kind of stuff. You cannot escape being what you were created to be. Thank God for that. Thank God for that.
So the only question is, and with this question we will complete this short message, but a very important message upon which we will be building. The question is this: am I, as a creative being, made in the image of God, willing to deliberately, consciously, and actively choose being responsible for which thoughts, which pebbles are dropped into my mind in each moment? And if the answer is yes, what do I want the new pebbles to be? What vibrational qualities will I call to myself and thereby create my tomorrows? Anytime you react to what you believe is outside of yourself, you may be absolutely positive of this. You have elected to pick up that old pebble that said, I am a victim of the world I see. What I experience is caused by forces outside of me. The fault really is in my mother, my brother, my father, my child. The fault really is in the government and the planet and the quality of air. The fault really is from a source outside of me, and I have no choice but to react to it. To which I can only say, would you rather be right or happy?
So the ego's idea of happiness is being right about its judgments. And when we can talk other people into believing our judgments, well, then we really get puffed up, don't we? If we can get a whole crowd of people furious and really raging because of our ideas and our judgments and how wrong everything is, wow, nuts. So am I, as a creative being, willing to take responsibility for which thoughts and pebbles I drop into my mind in each moment? If the answer to that question is a no, throw away the Course in Miracles, throw away the Way of Mastery, and just go on and create all the suffering you wish. But this is an all or nothing affair. You're all in or you're not. You either accept total responsibility or you're still a victim. 99% responsibility and 1% victim is still a victim. I mean, you need to get really honest with yourself. Because, of course, when this came up, I was like, yes, 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 I'm ready. Jeshua was like, so, let's just see. A day later, he pops in my consciousness and said, wow, you said yes. What about this thought, and 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 this thought? And I was like, oh, shit. I liked the thought yes, but I really wasn't doing it. I mean, we all love a diet, but we usually don't do it. We all love the idea of working out and being really healthy, but we usually don't do it. This does require vigilance. He talks about it, vigilance for the kingdom or the queendom. He prefers queendom, by the way. That I'm responsible. Vigilance is I'm responsible. Not it's God's fault or anyone else's fault. And when you truly step into this and you begin to do it, all of a sudden you're going to recognize, each one of these are God too. And they're using their unlimited freedom to not be unlimited. Why would I want to infringe on their freedom? Why would I suggest they should drop different pebbles? They're absolutely free and sovereign. When they're ready to, they'll find their way to a pathway that will wake them up. But gone is the need to modify or change anyone else for any reason. So just look in your consciousness. This paragraph sounds great. You'll probably find that you're living a lot more of this bottom paragraph than you're going to want to. So just look within your consciousness where there's blame, past, present, or future, where there's judgment, where there's certainty, where there's the desire to defend. All of that is protecting this bottom paragraph. It's your choice. True happiness comes in absolute sovereign self-responsibility. What would your experience of happiness be if you only threw happy pebbles? But you want to try and create happiness sometimes while you're throwing unhappy pebbles. It don't work that way. The mirror's not going to smile when you're frowning. There's the hugging Saint Amma. Does anyone know this? So someone asked her, why are you so happy? And she said, because there's no source beyond me for my happiness. Because she chooses to be happy. And she's mastered the choice. And she's mastered it so well that flocks of beings show up simply to be in her presence and embrace perfect, undisturbable happiness. What would it be like for you to be undisturbably happy? Wow! Let that pebble drop in. Is it possible to be the embodiment of perfect peace? It is, and you will be the creator and the experiencer of it. You're creating and experiencing for yourself, not for anyone else. And honey, our relationship got a whole lot better when we decided to be happy instead of right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you finally agreed. You know, it's something when your spouse comes home and they're unhappy and you choose not to join them. You're just like, great, enjoy that, have all you want. I'm going to dance. But when you consistently do that, you'll come to learn, oh, is it really that simple? Is it just a choice? Is it just a willingness? And it is. That's simple. Thanks, honey.
Therefore, indeed, beloved friends, Consider well the essence of the message of this hour, for upon this we will begin to build as we move toward the ending of this year of the Way of the Heart, which is but a foundation from which those that are willing can spring forth into a grander dimension, a grander experience of living as a deliberate co-creator with God. But it all begins with a need to be responsible for owning the truth of the message of this hour. For without that, there can be no change in your consciousness, and therefore in what you will experience in your tomorrows. So if there is something in your present that makes you shudder, just think what's waiting for you if you once again deny choosing this responsibility and the power that comes with it. And with that, indeed, beloved and holy friends, remember that I come not to bring peace to the world, but to shake it up, so that those beings who make up the world can discover where true peace is truly hidden, within themselves, and where heaven abides, within themselves, and where Christ lives, within themselves. Peace, then, be unto you always. Amen.
And this really is the foundation. The Way of the Heart is really, here's the truth. Like it or not, accept it or not. The next section is the Way of Transformation, which is kind of how do you move from where you think you are to embody that truth. I mean, this first Way of the Heart's pretty sexy. You either love it or you hate it. And people have come in and loved the message, and there's those that have hated the message. But he says, for those who are willing can spring forth into a grander dimension. That doesn't mean that those who aren't willing lose the ability to choose. They'll choose when they're ready. For us, for me, it took 2,000 years after Jeshua for me to choose. Great thing, it's eternal. And be a deliberate co-creator with God. We're all co-creators with God. Everyone is and always has been a deliberate co-creator with God. But the whole sleeping metaphor, not being awake, is creating unconsciously out of your awareness. Thinking that you were a victim of the world that seemed to be outside of you. Whew. So it's really time for a deep spiritual gut check. And if you don't have it, it's okay. But if you don't build a solid foundation, if you don't build your house upon the rock, if you don't build your house upon the truth, it's going to get washed away. And the pathway is going to get significantly more intense the deeper it goes, because you're going to have to face your stuff that you've created. So what will it be? Are you all in? And by the way, it's okay if you're not. I'm not saying, oh, you dumbass. It doesn't matter. We all come to all in when we're ready to go all in. But if we're not willing to accept this level of responsibility for all of creation, then we're really not taking responsibility and moving towards our own consummate and complete awakening. Whew. And I just love, I did not come to bring peace to the world. I asked him one time, I said, what's up with this Prince of Peace thing? He said that was just an ego contrivance. It's really not in the Bible anywhere, to try and make him out to be a nice guy, because what he came is he turned everyone towards their inner conflict, which showed, and in Cindy and I's case, we were doing this dance of inner conflict. Awakening didn't bring more peace to the house initially, it brought more conflict. Because that which you've been living in a victim doesn't want to be, they think they're getting something out of being a victim. So it generally creates more conflict before peace comes. And many people, oh, I'm all in, And then here comes their shit. It's like, oh, screw that. Forget that. I thought this was supposed to be about the Prince of Peace. Peace will come, but it takes this level of responsibility. And you will find it within you. And He's telling you where it is, in the power of choice. In the power of responsibility. Wow. If something in your present makes you shudder, how many of us have things in our presence that makes you shudder? How many thoughts drop into your consciousness a day that make you shudder? Just think what's waiting for you if you once again deny choosing this responsibility. I mean, if those things are making you shudder and you're dropping those pebbles, I mean, how big a billboard can you tell the universe, I want to experience that which makes me shudder? I mean, get real with yourself. Don't think they're not powerful creations. Whew. Heaven abides within themselves, and Christ lives within them, and always has and always will. Amen. Lesson number 8 is done. Dropping pebbles into the pond of awareness. Become a master pebble dropper. You already are a master pebble dropper. I mean, recognize you already are. You're a master at thinking. You think all the time. So, what if you just change the purpose of what your thoughts are? It's kind of simple. So next week we will do the channeling, whoops, happy fingers again, of lesson number 9, all events are neutral. I did a dialogue on this one that all events are neutral. It's the least watched dialogue of all my dialogues. By a huge margin. People look at the title. I should change that to be all events are neutral. I should just change the name of the dialogue to the world's greatest Christed dialogue. But this is what the ego, because of course this is the end of judgment. And the ego desperately wants to keep judgment alive because that's how it determines reality. And just look at what happens. Your mind's always, what does this mean? Is this important? Is this not? It's always trying to assess value and place importance on things. So this is another great one. All events are neutral. Does anyone have questions or comments tonight? Hold on. Gordon will come around with the microphone.
My question is around, we drop these pebbles and we take responsibility for them. And obviously if we look at some of these pebbles and we're like, wow, I dropped that, and we take responsibility for the consequences that it has, the effects, how do we keep ourselves from not getting in that cycle of being like, oh shit, I dropped that, and I take responsibility, but then getting stuck in taking that responsibility that you just get sad about it, you get, wow, I did that, guilty, feel guilty for it.
Start beating yourself up about it.
Exactly.
Go, what a dumbass you are. Why do you keep doing that? You can't get this right ever. Does that feel familiar?
Are you in my head?
Yeah. Yes, I am. So the point is, that's exactly how the ego is going to want to try and co-opt this. I use the symbol sometimes, it's a hammer. If you're hitting yourself in the head with the hammer, the moment you realize it, you don't go, how dumb, and hit yourself more for having hit yourself. The moment you realize it, you drop the hammer. So when you recognize it, and again, I'm going to go back to responsibility because you're still working off of a definition of responsibility that says I'm guilty for what I've done rather than I'm going to be responsible and go, oh, I saw that pebble. How do I wish to respond should those consequences come rushing back at me? And how will I greet those and respond with new pebbles? So really work on changing responsibility to mean you're guilty and you're suffering because of your consequences. And I know this may be a stretch, but Jeshua encouraged me to celebrate my creations as the waves came back, no matter what they were, because they were the proof of the presence of God's love in my life. They were the proof that God says, I can have shit on a silver platter if I so desire, and I can have as much of it as I wanted. So it's really vigilant to stop that cycle. And you can, in any moment, think, I and the Father are one. I mean, even if you just got to repeat it over and over and over and over and over. But the self-beating up doesn't help at all. It's only, throwing, I've heard the throwing good money after bad kind of thing. So just use the hammer thing. Oh, I was hitting myself in the head with the hammer. Rather than go, how dumb am I? Go, thank God. I recognize I was hitting myself in the head with a hammer, and just drop it. What would I like to do? I think I'll love myself. I'll embrace myself. I'll, whatever. So shift responsibility to the ability to respond differently than you have reacted in the past. And vigilance, it takes practice. And we've only practiced that incessant self-judgment and fear because we've practiced it. That's why we're all really good at it. So accept mastery and just repurpose it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In the back, Gordon.
What do you think of the practice of chanting or repeating the name of God for union with God?
If it works for you, it works for you. I mean, what do I think of, boxers or briefs? Whatever your choice is. All modalities, all mantras, all practices, if they work for you, use them. But if you really think you need a mantra to facilitate union with God, you're missing the union which is already present before the mantra arises. So people ask lots, is this practice better than this one? Well, which one works for you? And use it while it works and then drop it. But the truth is, you're using the power of your being to bestow a mantra with the power to create an experience. You're free to create the experience without the need for the symbol. Whether it be mantra, whether it be meditation, whether it be spiritual dance, whatever it may be. Because what you really want to wake up to is your constant presence that doesn't require, so you can live in, I need do nothing. So if it works for you, use it. But be ready to drop it and not make an idol out of it. Because you want to rest into what's true all the time, whether you're repeating the name of God or not. So use them while they work. They're kind of like training wheels. But once you can ride, the training wheels do nothing but limit you. You'll kind of wake up to such a rich experience of heaven on earth that it'll be too distracting to be thinking, repeating the name of God all the time. Because you'll be present with God, as God, experiencing God. So, any spiritual, rosary, whatever, they're all okay, but they only have the power that you bestow upon them. And if anybody's telling you one modality is the way to God, that's bullshit. You're already one with God. They can help you get disciplined. They can help you get present. So use them. But don't make idols out of them.
Sounds good.
You're welcome. Anyone else? So, I used stuff while it was helpful. But, Jeshua was quick to say, okay, dude, you're ready to drop those training wheels. And I've mentioned this to some other people. When he said, put down the Course in Miracles. What? Oh my gosh. Really? But this is the truth. He's like, no. Do you see? You're attached to this symbol. You've given the book, I don't even have one up here anymore, a book, the power to create your state of being. You've made an idol out of it. You have an experience, and rather than being responsible for your experience, you run to the Course in Miracles like an aspirin. So eventually, you put down all spiritual text. You put down all things that are seeking. Because you're going to find that which is always present, and you'll live in that experience. So just look where your idols are. What are your spiritual practices that you can't live without? There's the edge of your fear. You've endowed staring at a candle or doing some, whatever, with the ability to create a state of being with you, and that's only because you've already chosen unconsciously, I'm going to let this practice make me feel good. Where you're just as free to go, I think I'm just going to feel good. I think I'm just going to abide in my oneness with the Creator without needing a scheme to do it. So. Yeah, then it becomes, and what Kelly said is, then it becomes that which you do out of joy. Yeah, let it be an expression of joy rather than trying to go get something. Because if you're entering any practice to get something, you're only entering that practice from the egoic consciousness. If you're entering a practice to give of your divine freedom and joy, and by the way, you can dance naked in your living room all by yourself, and all of creation will celebrate it with you. You don't even have to intend that that joy be shared. It's always shared because it's only one mind. So when your life becomes the expression of your happiness, your joy, your conscious or your choices and your ability to be responsible, it just starts to happen. And then you can have sacred experiences at the frozen food aisle at Ingles. Yeah, because you're just present in wonder and amazement all the time. I mean, just being present with the infinite variety that seems to be in a grocery store can be deeply humbling. And it doesn't take long to think, wow, look at this expression of the ability to exercise choice, which is the fundamental aspect of consciousness, versus what it was 100 years ago. We don't recognize how consciousness has quantum leaped so that we get ever more choices to master choice and have choice, lots of choices available to us. I mean, you know, it used to be 10 minutes in and out of the grocery store. Dude, now you can go do laps. Boom, boom. And spend a lot of time in the grocery store. And sometimes you feel overwhelmed by the choices. How many of us have experienced that? I mean, I've seen the comparison, the reading, the labels. I mean, I've just felt, drive by with my cart and I feel this struggle of like, oh my gosh, which is the right one? I mean, which is the right one? We've brought down judgment to which crackers are the right one. What if you could just live in the joy? I really like these crackers, and I'm going to enjoy those crackers. So your life becomes this joy rather than this fear-based trying to get. Right up here, Gordon. Hold on a second. Well, then make a statement.
Or just a statement.
You're welcome to say whatever you'd like because you're
Okay.
free. Everybody ready? Here comes a kerplunk.
Well, it is a Kerplunk because I've taken classes and, to go into that hearing and seeing and so forth. And so I tend
Keep
to...
the mic.
I have that, ability, just like I say everybody does. And we rely on the angels. They're communicating with us. We rely on even Jeshua and Mary Magdalene or whomever our divine is. Is it our personal power to finally realize that it is us?
You bet. And at the end of this pathway, Yeshua will say, set me down.
Okay. Because I have been sensing that for quite a while. It's just nice to, I guess it just takes a little while.
Sure.
A lot of times I've found, just like knowing there's no time, no space, and it's taken many years to get to the place where it feels absolutely right. But I guess this is another thing that just takes a little while.
Sure. You end up setting down the idea that you need help to choose because you've always had the ability to choose. You didn't need any help. We've all been choosing without any help. We've all cried out because we were unconscious of that ability, and we've asked for help to become conscious of it, and help comes. Every one of us right now are experiencing the effect of the help that has rushed towards us. You know, the prodigal son, when he made the turn to come home, wow, we're experiencing right here this pathway as God rushing to help us wake up. But it's a great thing when you set down the Course in Miracles. You will not understand the burden that forgiveness is until you lay it down. And when you lay down forgiveness, because you'll be in the recognition that there is nothing to forgive. There were no bad choices and no one's ever made one. They've all simply just been creating because they can, me and everyone else. And you'll set down forgiveness. And you'll set down the idea that someone else, Jeshua or Mary Magdalene or the angels, has any more power than you do. And I can assure you, when you are prepared to join with them as equals, that's when the extraordinary can begin to flow through you. Because you're accepting the truth that is true all along. You're no longer an apprentice, so to speak. And being an apprentice is just your own thing anyway. So you will set down all that stuff, and you will stand in the sovereignty that I and the Father are one, and that has no more or less power for any other being. But you won't need to defend it against any other being anymore, because that's true for them. So that's when you can kind of abide in perfect peace. So, you know, when this work started for me, and he said, you're going to be a reminderer and help the friends that we will send to you, he said, bless them when they come and bless them when they go. And the greatest blessing is when they go and they set you down as a teacher. They set you down as they take you down off the pedestal and they rest with you in perfect equality. That's the greatest expression for any of us. So I can't wait till you all go. Then we can get together and play as equals. And those of you who have spent time with me, it's really about encouraging just that. Join me in the truth of what we are and what can we really create together. It's not about supporting our littleness anymore. So if you feel that movement, you know, for us, Cindy and I, there came the time that all of our the altar went away. All the spiritual stuff went away. We gave it to people who needed it. Because, you know, I can look at, and I actually have in my sitting room a crystal and a piece of dung that I got on the Shanti Cristo land at Santa Fe. They're the same thing. The dung is no less sacred. There's no less the presence of God there than in the crystal. I mean, you know, we may start a whole new thing, healing with dung. Because when you recognize it's the same infinite expression. When washed from your mind is crystals have healing power and dung is something to be ignored, you recognize it takes just as much creative infinite power to create anything. You know, they're all ideas in the mind of God. You okay, Joy?
You can have a new movement. People come in and ask the dung.
So Joy said we could have a new movement where people come in and ask the dung questions. I could be the dung oracle. Yeah. So anyway, Elizabeth's got a very good point. And this is really the last kind of step you make, because you let go of all the things the mind has held on to as supports. All the crutches that we've made, and you lay all that down and you stand in the sovereignty of Christ and you walk the world in peace.
Because it has made it all woo-woo, sort of, you know, but it's really not woo-woo.
It's made it all woo-woo. I'm not sure. I'm having a pretty woo-woo time.
I just mean, you know.
Hold on a second. Let me get the mic.
The psychic, it makes it all, ooh, it's woo, you know, it's mystical, but it's not really, it is.
Well,
It
you know,
just is.
if when the psychics recognize that having going into a restaurant and making a choice and experiencing a meal is a mystical experience. It's just, why do you think we all chose this realm? I mean, you're embarking on what's one of the richest experiences that can be had in all of creation. To go from one pole to the other in the span of one short lifetime. I mean, it's rich. Ooh, it's rich. It's really, really rich. So, yeah, it can be woo-woo and out there, and I really like those out there kind of experiences. But when washing your car is as out there as spinning around some star on the other side of the cosmos, because you recognize the same mystery is producing both experiences, you really rest into that innocent wonder that Jeshua talked about. Be like a child. And really bring presence to, because does anyone know how anything really happens? I mean, you drop the pebble. Do you know how the universe coordinates all kinds of stuff so that a blind man shows up in your awareness? Or whatever it is. And you rest into that and you recognize, oh my God, heaven is right here. And it's just like heaven somewhere else. The fundamentals are absolutely the same. You can be just as happy on heaven on earth as you may be on heaven on Sirius or heaven on Pallades or heaven on heaven. Because it's an inner experience that you're choosing to create and have. So what is it like to have an unlimited experience of eating your grilled cheese sandwich? Can you bring enough presence and consciousness to really be with that experience rather than not even noticing while you're thinking about last week and 20 days from now? So, I just get a kick out of, these mystical experiences. We're having one right here, right now. Truth is revealing itself. And by the way, truth is always revealing itself. The illusion is we don't get what the truth is. We don't see the mystery and the wonder. We just think, it's a grilled cheese sandwich. And we miss, oh my God, how does a form come into being that has this faculty of taste that can experience this sandwich? It's absolutely miraculous, but we rarely rest in that. So when you set down all the texts that push towards the inner experience of the kingdom and you begin to live in it, wow, you won't want a text. You won't want a text to tell you what your experience is supposed to be like. You'll be too busy having the experience that you choose to have. You'll be too experienced dancing, laughing, whatever. So if you're ready to set stuff down, set it down with joy. Just like training wheels or an old toy or crutches. I'm having the image of Forrest Gump come through my consciousness. You remember the movie where he's got the like things on his legs? Run, Forrest, run, Forrest. And all of a sudden the shackles fly off and boom. All of a sudden, where's the need for the shackles? And he is going. And he didn't stop running, did he? He ran all the way across the world, the country, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We're all invited to do the same. Maybe Forrest Gump should come up on Waking Up to the Movie soon. Yeah, it's on my list. Okay, we'll do that before the holidays. Anyone else? Okay. If anyone would like to come and sit with me and just throw unlimited pebbles for an hour, how much fun could that be? Rather than processing the past, what if we threw new Christed pebbles? It'd be a lot of fun. Had another joint listening, channeled listening session today. It was cool. The truth revealed itself within someone's consciousness and they insisted it wasn't there. There was heaven expressing itself. If you'd like for me to come do a plurk shop in your area, give me a call. Love to do it. Love offering. Whoops. Okay. Maybe I'm going to need somebody's help with this.
Right there.
Stop. Love offering. When Jeshua asked me, are you ready to go extend love as I have extended it to you? I mean, I didn't get a bill every week from him for his loving guidance, for his perfect remembrance, for his not tolerating my insistence to be small, for my insistence to say we're unequal. He gave it all freely. And he said, go forth and give freely as I have given to you. And when you do it authentically, I assure you the universe will rush back in support. So that's you guys. If this has touched you, if this has opened your being, please turn within and ask, what is this pricelessness worth? And put it in the basket. Or go to onewhowakes.org, click the give button, and give me a PayPal donation. Cindy and I would appreciate it. This is how we can afford to do just this and extend love to ourselves. There was great joy within the back of my consciousness for tonight's gathering. I mean, I could feel it. I think many of you felt it. I can't do this work alone. None of us are doing anything we do alone. But a great heavenly host, you felt that? Good. Yeah, I got a tweak on that. A great heavenly host comes in support of this plurk because the heavenly host is in support of your infiniteness, your divinity, which is true right now. It's not at all about what you've done in the past. Every one of your creations will be celebrated. Bravo, child of God, well done. What would you like now? So we come in that support. We love you with an absolutely infinite love. We will always honor that you've always been a creator. And it's very good. And we love you with a perfect peace. Blessings and a joyful good night.